The Sam Sorbo Show is brought to you in partnership by the Herzog Foundation.
Hi there. Welcome to the Sam Sorbo Show. And I am talking with a young woman who I only just met. But as these things go, I often just say, hey, let's record this conversation because she's got a ton of information to share with you about the threats that are occurring against our children who are attending our nation's schools. So stay with me. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Here we go.
Sam, welcome back to the program.
I'm glad to welcome Sam Sorbo.
It's great to have you here.
All right, welcome back to the Sam Sorbo Show. My guest is Marie Hyepock, and she works with an organization called Protect Our Kids, or POK.org. It's a nonprofit, and they are involved in educating parents so that parents are aware of the various threats that exist in the schools that are targeting our nation's youth. And so I'm just going to bring her right into the show. Welcome to the program, Marie.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, it's great to see you in person again. We met originally at the Moms for America event, which happened in Dallas not too long ago, and spoke briefly there. And this is sort of a little bit of a follow-up because I love the work that you guys do. And I really want my audience to understand that, by the way, so, my whole lane is home education. But if you are a parent and you're home educating your children, do not think that your children have fully been sort of sequestered or protected from what is coming down the pike for the kids currently, because your children will necessarily associate in some way, shape, or form with kids who attend our nation's schools. And that might be a little bit, and it might be a lot. And so why don't you talk to the audience about that, and then we'll take a step back and find out more about the organization and stuff like that. But I want to make it relevant to parents who homeschool, because even if you homeschool, this is important information for you to know. Go ahead.
Yes. It is critical to know this. Our children are impacted in significant ways. And even though they may have been brought up in a home with the homeschooling as the directive for their schooling, every day they come in contact with their communities, their neighbors, their church members, and everywhere we turn, our children are being exposed to what's happened in our culture today. And that is the indoctrination that's come upon these kids in public education. They are being told lies, misinformation. They're being shown curriculum that is actually pornographic. These are the children still in public education. And so when a child is raised in that public environment, and then they come home and they're playing with their neighborhood friends, they start talking about those kinds of things. And so even though we feel as parents that our kids might be protected because of homeschooling, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just mention my own son had an altercation with a bully in our homeschool. There were only 12 kids in the class. And one of them was a bully, and the other one was the bully's helper. And my son and his friend became the targets of this bully and his cohort. And the rest of the class sort of stepped back and watched, because that's interesting drama. And so to think that, well, I homeschool, so my kids will be fine or whatever is a little bit misguided. And by the way, the young people who, at least the one young man who was bullying, was exposed to porn and was exposing other children to pornography, because it's everywhere. So even if you're home educating, you've got to deal with this. And so talk to me. So on your website, Protect Our Kids, or POK.org, you actually have videos in various languages talking about the triple threat. So talk to me about that.
Yes. So we came up with this concept of the triple threat. It's the toxic culture that's being presented in our schools. When we say triple threat, specifically, we mean sex and gender theory, where they're being taught that their gender is not really male or female, and it's something that they think it might be.
It's mutable. It's changeable. It's
It
fungible.
Yes, it can be anything, as many as 50 different categories.
Can you think of a more heinous lie to tell a child? Because let's let's put aside that there might be down the road, there might be some issues with that child in their identity. When you tell a young child that, and we're talking age 5, 6, right? Kindergarten and
Yes,
onward,
yes,
you put doubt. Just raising the question puts doubt in the child's mind. It opens a door that should never be opened, right?
yes. Sam, that's so right. And, we as parents, we try so hard to guide them, to understanding biblical principles. Um, and that is that God created us either male or female. And that's all it is.
Well,
And
so conversely, you have to, and I really encourage people, you can't just sort of take things at face value and say, oh, that happened and this happened, and let's go behind and use some discernment. What happens when a child is taught at home? God created you in his own image. He created you a little boy or he created you a little girl, right? And then that child goes to school and the school says, and the school is an authority at that point. The teacher is an authority. The teacher says, well, you might be born in the wrong body. You might feel like you're a different thing than what your parents told you God created. Maybe God was wrong,
mhm,
which is really what they're saying.
yes.
And this sets up a whole Pandora's box of questioning and insecurity, which makes the child vulnerable.
Mm.
That's grooming. That's what that is. It's
That
grooming.
is. Yeah, absolutely is.
So, okay, triple threat. So it's the gender thing, the gender ideology. The
Sex,
second one is
sex and gender, critical race theory. That was so came so to light during
mm.
COVID,
And by the
and
way, let's just call it what it is, racism. So they're training in racism. Okay.
yes,
And then the third one.
and
And
the
this is
third one
fun.
is you're on top of this, Sam. Social emotional learning is the third threat.
Okay.
So,
That one is so nebulous that people don't. Let's drill down and really explain to us what is meant with that SEL. And they've shortened it and they're using other words for it now. They're trying to disguise it. But social emotional learning, what is it?
it's let me just take from our brochure exactly what
Sure.
we say social emotional learning. It's a kind of replacement parenting where the public school system acts in loco parents to teach our children values, ethics, decision making, and self management through the lens of critical theory and the woke worldview.
Okay. I'm going to sum it up for people. It's a blanket permission for teachers to engage in manipulation of your child. That's why they have the emotional, right? So they can
Right,
say it's social and they can say it's learning, but that emotional part is none of their business.
right.
And so what they're engaging in is manipulating your child, and they're manipulating the child in large part, maybe not entirely, but in large part against the parents and against God. Because
Yes,
let's face it, the schools are arrayed at this point, the government schools are arrayed against God.
yes. So,
So
when our children are as vulnerable as they are, they're so um, subject to what their peers think. And they're at that emotional teenage year coming into their hormone changes, 12, 13 years old. In today's world, we see that the girls at that age are the most subject to this thought misinformation that's being put upon them, that they're the ones at that age now are questioning. It used to be boys only. at that age. Now it's girls at
That are
the 12
questioning what?
that are questioning gender, that are questioning because they're so emotional and their hormones are changing at that age, that they become more subject to the influences of the indoctrination that's being taught to them today.
Wow. Okay, Marie Hyepock from protectourkids.org. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to connect some of these dots so that parents can really see what's happening. Because you mentioned it used to be boys who questioned their sexuality, but now girls have sort of picked up that, joined that bandwagon. And this is very dangerous stuff, as we know, when a child goes on any kind of trans journey, let's just say. There's a lot of money in it. There are a lot of people who are highly invested because there's a lot of money in it for them. And then we can talk about why money is so important in our culture today. But Marie Hyepock, quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to connect some dots. So stay with us. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. We'll be right back. Hi there. So for years, I've been harping on the problems in our schools and the fact that most of our government schools, our factory schools, have been overrun by this progressive ideology that is really at war with our traditional American values, our Judeo-Christian values. And parents have finally started waking up more and more, which pleases me to no end. But they're worried about what to do. They are not sure which way to turn, and that's why it gives me great pleasure to announce my continuing partnership with the Herzog Foundation. So the Herzog Foundation is a trusted source for K through 12 Christian education. They have a really remarkable suite of resources for parents and for families. They have an online publication known as The Lion and a network of podcasts, including mine. So they can offer a wide range of advice and information for Christian parents to make the best decisions regarding the education of their children and the values that they instill in their children. And so if you want to find out any more about this remarkable organization, just go to herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com. Thanks so much. Discover the wonders of biblical history with Biblical Excavations by David Nekrutman. Teach teens to love the Bible, defend their faith, and know God more deeply with a unique collection of educational resources that bring the ancient world of the Bible to life. Visit biblicalexcavations.com/curriculum and use code SAM to get 10% off your next purchase. Dive into God's Word and enrich your homeschooling journey today. All right, welcome back to the Sam Sorbo Show and my guest, Marie Hyepock from protectourkids.org. You can find their website, pok.org, and there's a lot of information on there. And I do want to talk to you about where you guys have partnered and how you're getting the word out and sort of the inroads that you've made. But before we go there, you mentioned this sort of in passing. It used to be just boys who sort of started to question their gender. And I would put to you that boys started to question their gender because they were emasculated in a largely feminine environment. Schools are traditionally quite feminine environments, forcing young men, little boys, to sit at desks instead of to go out into the yard, run around, hit things with sticks, is a very feminine or effeminate or feminizing proposition. And so when you do that to young boys, it does just automatically, it opens the door for them kind of wondering, where they fit on this spectrum of sexuality. Even if you don't suggest that there is a spectrum, it's obvious. There are women who are a little bit more masculine than others. Some women are more feminine than others, right? And then there are men. And there are men who are sort of warm and fuzzy. And then there are the big burly men who are like gruff and rough and tumble or whatever. And so these young men are reaching puberty and they're kind of wondering, like, where do I fit in? And we offer them through this school environment the opportunity to say, I don't want to be, I'm scared probably of becoming that rough, grumbly, threatening, imposing figure. And most teachers at that point, we're going back 20 years or whatever, most teachers 10 years ago, women, right? So they don't even have that role model. They miss their dads because the dads are either not in the home, or if they are, they're out at work and they see them maybe at dinner, maybe twice a week, maybe more, so it sets up this whole disconnect for these young men. Now the schools have doubled down and they said, you know what, we're going to really dive into this sex stuff, which, by the way, and I'm sure you know this, when they sold us on sex ed in schools, the theory that they sold us was, if we can teach the children about safe sex, which, okay, news alert, does not exist. Does not exist. That's just a complete lie right there. There is no such thing as safe sex. But they promised us if we could teach them about safe sex, we will lower teenage pregnancy. And it shot through the roof. And nobody bothered to look at the results of the experiment perpetrated on the American public. Now they're experimenting again. I mean, schools are just a vast experiment that nobody bothers to look at the results for. So I promised that we were connecting the dots. This is just the next stage of the removal of gender from our society. What do you say?
I agree 100% with the, we see so much of this. I remember watching one of your movies and a little interview with you and your husband recently, speaking about how the dad being absent from the home so much, the young boys, they don't understand what masculinity is about. And as you said, Sam, so they begin to question things, and then they're being directed by within the school by female teachers. So they're having that difficulty, and at that, and again, if you, as parents, if we have boys, I have my youngest son is a boy, my oldest is, and we are, through the public schooling system, we chose as a family to put them into private schooling. But still, I think this is such a major factor, is when the father is absent from the home, these young boys have such a difficult time really understanding what the masculine role is that they and responsibilities that they have as a leader in their home, as a ultimate father, and it's really put our world upside down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now they're bringing it to the girls.
Yeah.
And the reason that they can now go after the girls is the girls actually need that masculinity around for them to dive into their own femininity. But they've upset the apple cart with the masculinity thing. And so now the girls are like, well, I'm not sure. I mean, who needs a man? I'll be a man. I'll be my own man. And good luck with that. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
it's not going to work.
And then with the gender transition that's occurred and allowing the boys to transition to girls and boys being in girl sports, that's a whole nother factor that causes all of this confusion.
Oh, they're wiping girls off the map. Like there won't be girls anymore because now we're seeing inroads in the political arena.
Yes.
The question is whether it will trickle down. President Trump gave an address recently where he said, we will remove government funding from any schools that continue in this DEI behavior. Well, DEI, in this behavior of allowing boys in girl sports. There are schools out there that are actively, like, vocally denying and denying that directive and saying, nope, we're going to double down. We want more boys and girls, like, basically. So can they survive without the government funding? I mean, that remains to be seen. This is going to be a showdown. And can the government do this? It should be able, I think it should be able to do it. I'm not happy that it's doing it. I think the government should butt out of all schooling because they've done such a bang up job so far. Who needs more of that, right? Yeah. So hopefully So it's a double-edged sword. Like I want it to prevail and I want them to be effective, but at the same time, if they're effective, it just means more government involvement in our schools. And of course, that's sort of where the problem began, is
Right.
that the
Right.
government entered into this arena. Go ahead.
Right. Especially, in the liberal states. I mean, we're from California here, and we see such opposition to the federal laws that are coming down, these executive
Yeah.
orders that are coming down right now. I was just 2 weeks ago in Long Beach at a Save Girls Sports rally before CIF leadership. And CIF being the entity, the federation that controls all of sports across California and does awards. And they have their scholar athletes that are given, high recognition and scholarship through CIF. At this Save Girls Sports rally, there were 30 of us that spoke out to the board members of how wrong they were in taking the position that they would still allow boys in girls' sports. And of course, in a public forum, in a meeting like that, they don't have to respond, but at least they were respectful to hear all 30 of us on that issue. And again, and this was like one day after the executive order had just been passed down. So will they at the state level, California particularly, finally fold on this issue? It's to be determined. It's going to be a very interesting 2025 as we see these things coming through.
Yeah, well said. I'm afraid so, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if they continue with this behavior, the parents of girl athletes will be maybe emboldened to take it into their own hands to form a different league, maybe outside the CIF, or, let's get this done differently for our kids, which is a step away from school, right? Because right
Yes.
now the schools control a lot of the sports, not all of them, but a lot. And
Mhm.
so I would really encourage parents, you know what? Maybe this is the thing that you need to take on yourself, form your own league, and there would be other parents in other communities that form leagues and just get it done yourselves.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right, a lot of parents think that their kids are going to earn athletic scholarships, and so there's money at stake. And I promised you guys we would tie in the money picture. The money picture is we all go to school, and in school, K through 12, 13 years, we learn that money is the highest value. College prep and career readiness. Money is the highest value.
Yeah.
You will sell your grandmother for the almighty dollar because money is the highest value. And so that's the struggle that we have, is people justify misbehavior for the money. And it's the struggle that we have with school choice. People will justify whatever because they want those dollars. And we have to be very careful with that. Where does incidentally, where does Protect Our Kids stand on school choice? Do you guys have a position on it?
We do. We are in support of that initiative, even though we realize that, some of the schools, the charter schools, are not are resistant to us forming a coalition in this regard. But there is here in California, and I hate to keep referring it because there are so many states that have the school choice, and that funding available to them has been approved and they're utilizing it in a great way. California has always resisted, and Protect Our Kids, to answer your question, Sam, is in support of that school choice.
How does Protect Our Kids define school choice? Because right now we have school choice. It exists everywhere. You can choose the school that your child attends. You can even choose not to send your child to school. That's like the full spectrum of school choice.
Right.
So, but and I know that we're talking about the new initiatives that are coming down that everybody's calling school choice, even though they are myriad in scope and shape. So what is it that you guys are supporting that we're calling school choice for California?
So there is a leadership team that is putting together a ballot initiative that we will see this on the ballot coming up in the next session in 26. That it's called CEO Act, Children's Educational Opportunity Act, and it's very clearly defined.
I love the
What,
names.
isn't that great?
Works.
um, and it's very clearly defined exactly what that um, picture of funding to parents looks like. And so we default to that in a sense. We partner with that leadership team that's putting that together. We fully support that descriptive. And for me to state that in the moment, I would simply refer you to the CEO Act.
Okay.
Um,
So, but
uh,
basically it's
Online.
money goes to the parents. I'm sure there's something in there about no strings attached or very few strings attached or whatever. Money goes to the parents so that they can spend it on the education of their children.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and of course, if you believe that food stamps make people healthier, then you'll believe that this kind of initiative will make children smarter. I'm not sure how that connects, but well, I'll be able to choose a better school for my child. You can right now. And the
Mhm.
money flowing into that system is just going to raise tuition rates. And I don't know why people think that it will do anything but that. Like it's going to make schools better, probably not, but it will raise tuition rates because that's what happens when the government floods a market with funds. Um, but
Well,
hey,
on
you're
the opposite of that, though, the example of what I was sharing with you earlier, Sam, through Protect Our Kids, we do have what we call our alternative education initiative, where we are working with pastors on church campuses that they would consider having a private school on those classrooms that are unused during the course of the week
right,
at an affordable cost.
right,
So, and when I say affordable, we're talking in the range of $4,000 to $5,000 a year for K through 6 education.
right.
That is affordable compared to the true private education. As you say, the
Yeah.
pricing can go up, and it can. I mean, some schools for high school being, in excess of 20,000 a year for a private high school.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, in excess of that for
That
sure.
way, well, yeah, it depends on, what state and the
Yeah.
location and all, but
Well, I hope the people that are trying to put this together for California take a look at the other initiatives that have already been enacted and have been functional for a little while. Um, and I would only caution that when the government funds the institution, which is sort of what you're proposing, is these pastors look, and I get it. Churches are empty during the week. Why don't they host a micro school or a homeschool co-op or some kind of, and in fact, if we could convince teachers to exit the schools and become more like mentors and lead teachers, say, for one room schoolhouse opportunities,
Mhm.
that would be a much better learning environment for these kids. So siblings could be studying in tandem with each other and have sort of a mentor teacher training them on how to learn and what to learn and stuff like that. That would be great if churches would open themselves up to that. Much less expensive, most likely, than any kind of private
Right,
school situation.
right.
But when the government starts funding it, it is no longer a private school. That's the problem, right? And so people say, well, if it goes through the parents' hands, then it still is private. No, because the government has the strings. The government will say that the school must be accredited. Well, how do you get accreditation? That costs money, by the way.
Mhm.
And right, so it opens up this whole morass that I think a lot of conservatives are not considering. when they just see the money, they just see, oh, that money's good. We should give money to parents. Like I said, it's like food stamps.
Yeah.
It's not about the money, stupid. It's about the children.
Yeah.
And but you know what?
It is a
People are,
topic that is, goes back and forth on in the conservative realm, and some take that position exactly what you're talking about. So what you're explaining, it's the money that drives things. But we see it at Protect Our Kids as in a more positive vein. Again, particularly with this particular initiative that the through the CEO Act, that the leadership team has fully thought that through, and all the strings that could be pulled by the government. They're creating the guidelines that doesn't happen to a parent. So
they're
it's
trying to do the same thing in Oregon, and put in these safeguards, like to protect it from government encroachment, which is excellent. So I'm going to take a close look at that and see what kind of holes we can poke in it,
great.
just to test the theory. Unfortunately, Arizona did it, and I remember the Arizona lawmaker who said to me, "Well, we've enacted this new ESA program, which is an education savings account, and there are no strings attached, but their tuition rates skyrocketed over 25%,
Wow.
which is sad, because then you're disenfranchising the families who don't take the money, and the institutions who don't take the money, because I don't know how they can compete, right? So, but we'll see, because they're still in the midst of the shuffle that occurs when there's this new, well, let's say, the government is this new entity on the block. And so now the block has to reshuffle and figure out where the power struggles fall and stuff like that. So they're in the middle of that. I'm glad to know that you guys have taken a position. I'm going to hope that it changes, but we'll see. Because I have yet to see a program where the government funds actually helped. I guess I guess that's what it is.
Right.
But I really appreciate what Protect Our Kids is trying to do for parents. It's a great website. I really encourage parents, go to the website, and it will have shown what during our conversation here, because my editor throws it in and stuff like that. So they will see it. So I have 3 questions for you that I ask all my guests. One, what is your educational background?
I am a native Californian. Went to school, public ed, all my life here, on through college. Only a 2-year degree, and I then, after graduation, threw myself into the corporate world of finance, and was one of few women who went up the ladder in sales and marketing position in corporate finance.
What's your degree in?
Just a business degree is all.
Okay.
And
So,
go ahead.
well, I'm trying to get to, are you using what you studied for what you do today?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there came a time in utilizing that business administration degree in the sales and marketing community that I worked in, and there came a time in 2000, 2001, that I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to go through surgeries and chemotherapy and radiation. Um, by God's grace, today I am 20 years out of recovered, and it has not returned. And so I praise God for that. But through that, I had to pull out of the corporate world and came in alignment with the business that my husband had at the time, which was a general contracting business. So to use my administrative skills, I was able to apply that there as he and I worked together. We had a successful contracting company for a number of years. Again, now this is fast forward. My health was much better that I could do that.
Yeah.
And so we ran that business together. I utilized those skills in that environment. At the same time, though, had my children and had to see fit to have them in school every day. We chose private education for our kids. We were blessed to have the little bit of excess funds to put them in private
Right.
school at the time, elementary and high school. So until such time as we then sold our business
Yeah.
and retired.
I bet that I bet the cancer treatment was a whole education in and of itself.
Yes. Yeah.
So last question, advice that you would give your younger self.
Don't work so hard. I
Wow.
yeah, and that seems interesting because today we don't see that mindset strongly enough within our younger children, our young communities. Typically, the work
The hard
ethic,
work mindset, the
yeah,
work
that
ethic.
work ethic, yeah, and easily my husband and I would put in 80 hours a week easily, and run ourselves into the ground, have gray hair as a result. But and our kids, even to the where we would offer our business to have them step in and be trained up to take over our business, they said, no thank you, I don't want to work as hard as you work. So
Wow.
it's it that would seem uncommon advice for today because we don't see that work ethic in people today. And
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah,
Fair enough. But some people have it. So that is sound advice for people who overwork themselves and need to take a break. I
yeah.
appreciate that. Marie Hyepock, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me today, Sam.
So that's it for us today. What a fabulous guest. Thank her so much for appearing. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Remember, speak truth, speak it boldly. We'll see you next time.
The views and opinions expressed in the Sam Sorbo Show are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of the Herzog Foundation.